So, welcome. As I said, or as Moni already said, my name is Björn Darko. I'm the Director of Professional Services at Searchmetrics, and the Professional Services team is the internal consulting department, which helps the clients of Searchmetrics to support them on relaunches, HTTPS migrations, everything which is technical or content related. If they have a lack of resources, lack of know-how, everything you could actually imagine has something to do with SEO is what we are doing. Before Searchmetrics, I worked for a big marketplace in Switzerland called Ricardo.ch. Then I went further to a big media house, Blick.ch, and I learned SEO, you can say, or I jumped into the SEO train in London, working for MVF Global, a big lead generation platform. You can follow me on Twitter. As I said, I will tweet this picture, and then let's see how many followers I can get. And during my career, I did a lot of relaunches, migrations, everything which has something to do with we want to change something. And as I was for decades in-house, you can download the slides later here, so that we clarified this. And as I was working for decades as an in-house SEO in such big companies, everybody who is working too as an in-house SEO know quite some scenarios, right? I mean, you have a product team, you have a mobile team, you have an SEO team, you have an AdWords team, you have so many teams. You're sitting together and say, yeah, we're planning a relaunch next year, Q1, Q2, we want to do the relaunch. And you say as an SEO, okay, yeah, but you have to tell me before you start because, we need to do this relaunch, migration, Excel sheets, and, we need to do think about this and that, and, So all of a sudden, after half a year, the product manager comes to the meeting and says, yeah, tomorrow we relaunch, is that awesome? And you say, what's that? I mean, I had to do something about it. You had to ask me before and all the kind of stuff. So, and this is actually my point here, because most of the relaunch nowadays fail due to bad project management. This is really the case. And I learned it a lot from in my career right now. And one of my colleagues, actually from a product management team, really smart guys, go to your product management team, really smart guys. He taught me about the Rusky model. Hands up, who knows what a Rusky model is? You know what a Rusky model is. So a relaunch for itself is such a big and such an important project, you can't do it alone. So you have different kind of stakeholders you need to have in boat, and you need to team up with this. And as you know that maybe from your everyday job, it's nobody wants to be responsible for this and that, and okay, where is this Excel sheet? Why? I thought you should do it and send it over to me. No, I thought you, and and that's why Rusky's matrix is there for, where you can dedicate different people of the project team with different responsibilities. So Rusky actually stands for responsible, approver, supporter, consultant, and informed. So responsible is like you or the product manager who is responsible for the relaunch. So you're actually responsible to carry this project over the next quarter, let's say. Then you have an approver. It could be a head of SEO, could be a manager, a CEO, somebody who needs always to be in the loop and needs to give the budget, for instance. Then you have a supporter. Could be something from the IT, could be something from the product management team. Then you have a consultant. He's not actively with in the project, but if he already did some relaunches, he can consult you with, have you thought about this, have you thought about that? Or it could be somebody from the IT, giving you technical ideas how to better do it. And then somebody who needs to be informed, like the CEO, mostly it's the CEO. I mean, if you have a fuck up of the relaunch, the CEO is really pissed off too. So you need to inform him about every step. And if everything goes wrong, for instance, then he knew it before and he can kind of delegate and escalate certain topics. So if you have defined everybody of the stakeholders within this Rusky, you put like small micro projects within this relaunch project, and let's say you define requirements, usability testing, like micro projects, and then you say, okay, who's responsible for this micro project? And then you have everything in this matrix. And as I said, that relaunches are big projects. Better you have a roadmap, and where you put the parent project, let's say, and then the micro projects in the roadmap, and dedicate it to those people who are responsible for that. Nobody can actually say then, okay, I didn't know that it's my responsibility, because it's written black and white on the roadmap. What you else have to do then, especially if you do redesign, relaunches or so, you can install a war room. Who knows what a war room is? You know what a war room is? War room is. So actually it means you just pick one meeting room within your company. You hang up all mock-ups, everything which is related to the new kind of design, new kind of project, hang everything up and just keep it hanging there. Whenever you meet as a project group, as a Rust-Geek project, where you go in this war room and you speak about the development of the project and every little step, it helps to visualize everything. And if you say, okay, how does it look like? Then you say, okay, here, look at this mock-up, that's how it looks like. Then you have a UX designer. UX designers, all the time they're involved in redesigns. Like they do a new product detail page, they do a new category page. They have tools which they use to prototype this. Go to your UX designer and ask him for access for this tool. This one is InVision. I think this is mostly used, at least on the companies I was working for, so you can always have a look at the development of the relaunch. And then, some people say, these developers, they're not talking to me. They're not even looking at me when I come to the company in the morning to get a coffee and say hello. Yes, they are talking to each other via Jira, via different kind of ticketing tools, Slack, everything. They are talking to each other. Just get access to these ticketing tools, and then you're in the loop of everything. Because what the IT guys then do and developers do, they are very, very detailed about everything they develop, and they just write it down then. They're like requirements, definitions, everything. You have everything in there. You just need to get access and look at this. And then don't forget you have a staging environment. A staging environment where you can test a lot of things before it goes to production. So you could actually say, okay, this will not work, so we have to, develop it further or change it or do this or that. So you have the right to say that, and if you say it's a fuck up, I guarantee you it's a fuck up, then it will not be developed. So that was quick, just like a starter to introduce you kind of a project management approach for relaunches. This is actually the basic thing I would recommend you doing, because then, as I said, everybody knows his responsibility, and nobody can actually say, I didn't know this or that. So, actually the title, Top Relaunch Types, you would now say, okay, it's content migration, redirection, all that stuff, but we have other presentations which are covering this. I just want to tell you actually two top relaunch types from my career, which I came across most of the times. The first one is a JavaScript relaunch. From a HTML-based website to a JavaScript relaunch. This is the worst monster ever. Like as Bartosz said, or as everybody else said, it's the worst monster ever. SEOs, for instance, they can't handle it. Google can't handle it. It's the worst monster ever. And the second one is actually not a relaunch, but it's kind of a relaunch, but it's an HTTPS migration. And it's not as easy as you think it would be, just redirecting from HTTP to HTTPS. And if you do it wrong, this can be a big fuck up too. So I will cover this. And then some funny stuff as well, as I think that's funny. It's like the most common relaunch mistakes actually I've seen in my career, and we see now on the desk of our consultants, is every day something's like, oh, that's funny. So let's talk about this JavaScript relaunches. Many happen on React or Angular, at least those I came across with. And if you see here the adoption rate, this is from Build With. It's actually it's a tool where you can monitor technologies and stuff like that. You see the adoption rate of React and Angular, it's just crazy. And I take this example as well. We have some clients who do this, but I was not allowed to show it, so I showed this one because it's already public. It's from hulu.com. If you look as an SEO on a JavaScript-based website, I mean, it looks all right, okay? Then what SEOs are doing, they look they disable JavaScript, and then, oh, white space, you don't see anything. And even if you look into the source code, it doesn't look familiar at all. I mean, look at this. And suddenly the SEO visibility drops because search engines seem to have a problem with it, right? And you're like, oh, fuck, oh, monsters, like, and you say, why, how can that happen? You say, yeah, the developer said so. It's so cool to have all this JavaScript in the client, in the browser. You say, yeah, good, I have to deal with this somehow. So, and my point here is that JavaScript is tricky for search engines. I mean, this is the research Bartosz just did, yeah? So you have Google, yeah, they say, okay, we can crawl and index it, but there are many other search engines who can't. And even Google has problems with it, and even Google says so. This is the guy who actually is the father of Angular.js. And even he said, if you search for any competitive keyword terms, it's always going to be server-side rendered site. The reason is because although Google does index client-side rendered HTML, it's not perfect yet, and the other search engines don't do it as well. So if you care about SEO, you still need to have server-side content. Just as an introduction, I will explain what every single term means. But even Google says it's tricky. You need to have a kind of an HTML-based part of your website. Barry Adams, an US SEO, he wrote an awesome article about how Google works, actually. And to understand why it's tricky, JavaScript is tricky for search engines, you have to understand this. So Google itself has a crawler, an indexer, and a query engine. And just from a high-level perspective, the crawler crawls the web, discovers the URLs, passes the HTML source code, extracts the links he sees in the source code, and sends those links to the indexer. The indexer then makes sense of the link, analyzes the content relevancy, and has this web rendering service. That's what I think it was Bartosz said, where they use Chrome 41. And trying to make sense out of the JavaScript. So they execute JavaScript similar to what you see or know from fetch and render as Google in Search Console, right? And this is kind of an excursus, but this is the magic word here when it comes to web rendering services. What it actually does is it, like the browser, when it renders, it shows the DOM, the document object model, and it tries to understand which element on the page you should show. This is what you see when you do this inspect element in your browser, right? This is the DOM. It's like the tree of the HTML. So actually what it then means with web rendering service, if you just take this JavaScript source code here, the browser tries to understand it and makes this out of that. So that's what Google also does when it says, okay, we are rendering the web, okay? But that's the point. I mean, the relationship between crawling and indexing gets very inefficient with JavaScript. And the worst thing is that even if it takes too long to render these pages, Google gives up to render these pages. And that's why you have many JavaScript-based websites which you can't find in an index, even if you see that Google crawls your page. But as soon as... oh, my girlfriend is calling me. But as soon as you, as Google will be able with this new Chrome 59 version, there's hope until that point, right? And this hope is called server-side rendering. And that's what I want to showcase you right now. But first of all, we need to understand the difference between server-side rendering and client-side rendering. So in client-side rendering means your browser, the server is sending response to the browser, like I do a request and it sends a response. The browser is downloading the JavaScript and trying to execute the JavaScript and then show actually the page to the user. When you have a server-side rendered website, it's like the server sending ready to be rendered HTML to the browser renders the page, it's immediately viewable and interactive, so it's much quicker. And when it comes to server-side rendering, it's actually, it's this, right? There's a request, it's based on the user agent. If it's a crawler or the Google bot, it gets a pre-rendered cache version of the HTML. And if it's a non-bot, then it's actually the normal page. And I know what you're thinking, this is cloaking. I think so too, but Google is okay with this. So, as I said, yeah, React and JavaScript. And when I came across the first time with React, I was like, oh, fuck, how can I lose my job? I can't understand, because I never wrote any line of code in my life. I had to dig into this and read and research to understand what it actually means. And when it comes to server-side rendering, React comes with their own solution. It's called render-to-string function. And you have to make sure, if you will be aware that you're using React as a technology, go to your IT support and say, hey, have you heard about this render-to-string function? Can we have that on our server that we can deliver an HTML cached version of our page? And you will say, yes, I can have a look into this. That's exactly what happened with me. It's like, we'll say, no, we don't have server-side rendering. I was research and say, render-to-string, yeah, we can do that. That's so easy. So we'll sort it, but you have to actually approach them and say to them, like, let's do this. So what it actually does, it implements a browser-independent DOM. Actually, it's a web render browser who exactly does what I just showcased you, the DOM tree. It just sends this DOM then to the bot, so that Google understands fully and quickly enough how that works. And AngularJS, the funny story here is actually, I forgot to mention this, React is from Facebook. Facebook is based on React, and Angular is from Google. And Google actually has less problems to crawl React than Angular. That's funny, huh? More funny is like when AMP just started, that there wasn't any solution for putting analytics, Google Analytics, on the AMP version. AMP is from Google. Funny. Just to showcase you how confused they are sometimes. So AngularJS, they come with the same approach. It's called Angular Universal, and that's kind of the same thing. So you do a request to the browser, and then Angular sends an HTML pre-rendered cache version of the HTML, and then the browser gets all the JavaScript from the server in order to make the page interactive. And then there are some other services. They were kind of the same. So pre-render IO is one of these. What they're actually doing is they're putting a headless browser on the server who does this DOM web rendering service. You don't actually need this tool if you build or you put by your own browser on it, because this thing costs a lot of money if you have a big site. So as more pages you need to be rendered, as more it costs. So, and then with JavaScript, so there are a lot of tools you can use, which I just want to show you. So there's, of course, fetch and render is Google, where you can have the page displayed as just Google sees it. Then if you want to check a competitor site, there's fetch and render as AnyBot. The link is just here from technicalseo.com. It works pretty good. Then, of course, we have our own JavaScript crawler at Searchmetrics, which will be released on this week. And the product management team and the development team have worked 2 years on it, and it's really good. I just saw it yesterday. It's really, really good. You can use the JavaScript crawler from Searchmetrics, and then you're actually done. Beautiful. JavaScript, no problem anymore. So who of you in the room want to relaunch a JavaScript-based website? You. What framework? You don't want? Okay. Your boss wants. Which framework or library? Angular, JS. Angular 2, okay. So the next one is HTTPS migration. I've done 4 HTTPS migrations in my life. Biggest pain in the ass. Oh, that's so complicated, because let's put it let's start here. Google started already in 2014 to say, okay, HTTPS will be a ranking factor. Everybody in the US says, oh, it's crazy, I'm going to be on HTTPS and all. And then you come to go to your company, they have big roadmaps, yeah, next year. It's not that, priority number 1 and stuff. And even we, when you know that we do these ranking studies, and even we see that every year it's get more and more important. And this is from Most, where they actually evaluated their URLs, and they already see that it's already 50% of all URLs ranking on number one is HTTPS websites. And I have one example from Switzerland, which is kind of mind-blowing. Because this is the NZZ, it's a big newspaper from Switzerland, and they announced that they just switched to HTTPS in January 2017. They did nothing else. I checked that up. They did nothing else. And if you then look at their visibility, in January 2017, this is what happened. I don't say it's HTTPS. I just say it's kind of weird that it's on the same date, right? So if you don't use HTTPS, it's of course bad user experience because you always get these kind of messages, and for users like, oh, can I click? Oh, no, I don't click. But let's come to the actually migration process. As I said, it's not that easy because you can't just redirect from HTTP to HTTPS. So there's a canonical which needs to be adapted from HTTP to HTTPS. There's a hreflang tag which needs to be adapted from HTTP to HTTPS. Alternate mobile tags, pagination links. Then we go CSS files, JavaScript files, images, your sitemaps, social media, analytics scripts, ad servers, and we have some publishers here. These guys from the ad companies who do this ad server, they have the biggest problems with HTTPS, right? Would you say it's right? It's like, oh no, we can't deliver this in HTTPS.
That's why nobody's doing it in Germany.
Yeah, that's the reason why nobody's doing it in Germany. But I think Spiegel is on HTTPS. No, but you guys, you guys. You're the Welt is the only ones. Some pressure on you, man. So. And there's one thing I just figured out. If it's uncertain, you don't know if this external request is actually running on HTTPS, what you can do in order to avoid these messages, you just put it as a protocol relative URL. So meaning that you just leave this part out here, and just leave it out and then migrate it to this. And you can even do this with internal links. It's kind of dangerous if you have subdomains with kind of the same directory concept, but you can even do this, HTTP, and then just leave this domain with the protocol out and just migrate it to this. I did it on this marketplace I was working for, it was completely fine. And then, of course, you need to make sure that you have your Google Search Console account for HTTPS too. And what I didn't know, I forgot about this, was that you have to update your disavow file. Because if you have the new Search Console profile, you have to upload the disavow file to that Search Console as well. I forgot about this, but... And then you do all this stuff, and then you talk to your IT and say, yeah, we need to redirect. Then they redirect. You say, kind of strange. Who can tell me what the error is here? Exactly. It's the redirect type definition is missing. Because here should actually, so actually there's a red square. So there should actually be written a 3 or 1. And what they did here is a 3 or 2. Then, I have 5 minutes, right? Okay, I have to quick to this. Then you have to monitor the de-indexation and indexation of the HTTPS URLs. It's a long process, actually. You can do it with Search Console. And one thing I really like to tell you is that you can take advantage if you migrate to HTTPS, because this is the crawl statistics. So when Google detects that you're migrated to HTTPS, they come and crawl all your URLs. And that's so cool because you can do these small changes, and Google will detect it really quickly. So, 5 minutes, okay. When migrating to HTTP, you can migrate to HTTPS 2. Bastian already covered it. I just want to explain what's the advantage here. The biggest part of it, it's called multiplexing. So you had this protocol until 2015, HTTP 1. With HTTP 2, it's like before you went to a restaurant and you say, yeah, I want an aperitif, I want a starter, I want my main course, and I want the dessert, and then I want a whiskey afterwards. And the waiter is coming actually 4 times, it takes some time, you know. And with HTTP 2, the waiter is bringing you everything at the same time, because HTTP 2 is handling all the requests with one connection, and is serving the client with over one connection. It's much slower. We already saw this. I did it by myself on my blog. I have a small blog. I don't write that much. It's a WordPress blog. I just downloaded a plugin, ticked the box, installed it, activated. That what happened. And traffic went up a bit as well, because my website was much faster. I mean, I set up this website in 2011. I never thought about, you know, images and make them smaller and all that stuff. I didn't do it. I just did the HTTP 2, and that was it. The website is much faster right now. And you see this, when the website is much faster, the crawling is going up, because Google is wasting less time to crawl. I skipped this. You can see that on the slides. There's another thing. It's called HSTS module, which you can implement in the browser. That the browser is caching just HTTPS and is forcing the browser to just go to HTTPS files. And then there's another, again, tools. Search Console, there's a Fitbit SSL check, which you can just drop in your URL, and then it shows you, okay, there's some errors, you need to change this. HTTP 2 indicator. Oh, yeah, and then after you migrated everything, and even you do relaunch it, you have to look into your log files. And there's one special tool I want to mention. It's called LogRunner.io, who does an awesome job, because this one here is a real-time crawling monitor. So it shows you actually in real time what the bot is requesting on your site. In real time. It's really awesome. Again, crawlers such as Searchmetrics. I just go 2 minutes. Oh yeah, so now I just want to cover some most common relaunch mistakes, which I think it's funny. The first one is this here. They migrated, and oops, from 2.5, or what is it, 2 million URLs index to nearly 10 million URLs. It's like, whoa, what happened there? I'm telling you what happened there. So it's actually a website which has a search box integrated on the site. You filter by, you just go for your job, you're looking for a controller job, you want to have the job either in Freiburg, in Offenburg, or in Stuttgart. You press on search, and then it generates this URL, jobs, controller, and then my filtering, Freiburg, in Breisgau, Offenburg, Stuttgart. Even gets an own canonical URL, index, not blocked in robots.txt, and that's how it works. Like, you have to pay attention to the details, and this was forgotten here. Then, this is actually the most famous thing people do, and this is an official, I think it was written on one blog, I don't know, planetwissen.de. They did the migration and they forgot to redirect from the old URL structure to the new one. Completely forgot it. That's what happened. You need to watch your IT. Forgot to redirect images as well. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite. Massive increase of redirect change from 0 to 1,500. Small detail. The detail is you redirect from and trailing slash to with trailing slash, but you have a canonical to the version without trailing slash. And then it redirects again to the version with trailing slash. Redirect change. 1,500. Boah. You can imagine it's like if you're drunk and then you go into a roller coaster. That's the same for a crawler. That was really stupid. Actually, I was responsible for this, so that's why. And then one last thing, when you migrate to HTTPS, you have to take a look at the certificate. Because this is one of our clients, Lucas actually saw that we had in Chrome, we had this message like the certificate used to use an SSL certificate that will be disrupted in an upcoming release of Chrome. And this certificate is from Symantec. And Symantec on Google has kind of beef because Google thinks they give these certificates to websites which are actually not safe. So I would recommend you go home if you're running on HTTPS and check if you have a Symantec certificate, then you will be definitely in trouble by the upcoming release. Okay? Okay, deleting links, very bad. Archive, very bad. You can watch this up, and thank you very much.